Afternoon all. We are sorry for the technical issues we had with yesterday's game, which was an exciting game. And I think, Chris, we're going to try and do that at some point in the future again, that game 7.
Yeah, it was somewhat unlucky. It's a bit weird setup here because I'm on a notebook and also not with a steady internet connection. It's just a mobile phone connection, so this seemed to really worsen the audio a lot. But we invested some time here trying to make it better for this video.
Yes.
And game 7, I think we should do again at another time. It was an interesting game strategically, so it's a bit of a shame that the audio really is so problematic on this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's get going with game 8. It was an exciting game. I think this match finally has got has got off the ground.
So Anand playing white against Gelfand. He plays d4, and then we see knight f6. Nothing unusual so far. Well, knight f6, instead of the Slav, we see a tendency to want maybe the Grünfeld now after c4, g6.
It's kind of interesting, I think, because Gelfand's match strategy seems to be to press on a very, very, very solid basis with white, those kind of Slavs with e3 and these little things which really led to win last game. And with black he really plays dynamic openings. He plays here Grünfeld, he played the Sveshnikov and the kind of sharp stuff, in contrast to what he often also plays, stuff like the Petrov, or he plays the Slav as well, but in this match he went for Grünfeld and other dynamic openings, and Anand sticks with to f3 here, the move he already played in game 3, I guess.
Yeah, actually I remember, as well as you mentioned it in the previous video, and it being played before, I think Shirov has a YouTube video where he was afraid of Kramnik playing this and not wanting to transpose into a King's Indian defence. I think anyway, it's interesting that this has been used in the past, this f3 as well, quite a lot sometimes, avoiding the Grünfeld main line. But now we see c5, black counter-attacking on the dark squares.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Gelfand doesn't want to go into this d5 setup again, which he had in game 3. He had some problems in game 3. Anand was, I guess, close to getting something really significant in this game. He had an extra pawn, but somehow couldn't find the way to make it count. And now instead of d5 is c5, which transposes to kind of a Benoni setup, but with a slight twist that we will see shortly. So white goes d5.
Yep. d5. And so it looks as though, so a kind of, Simish King's Indian where black, in theory, can accelerate the dark squares, but it's tricky. In fact, in this position, I think this is a very interesting move, knight e2 already. So the knight can come. This knight can come to c3 potentially. That's quite an interesting move, knight. I don't know if it's theory. Probably it's theory.
Yeah, but it's really kind of an uncommon position here already. But it makes a lot of sense, of course, because the knight on g1 is white's problem piece in all those f3 setups. And as usually you get setups with knight b to c3, and it's difficult to get this knight developed. And what he's doing now after castles, I think we can put it on the board. Oh, black castles now.
Actually, there's just one thing I want to say. That I think I've had a game as white where I've waited for knight d7 and sneaked in knight h3 to f2, which turned out okay. But that doesn't have to happen. Black doesn't have to play knight d7 and allow this maneuver. But
no, knight d7 would be quite an inaccurate move, I guess. To allow knight h3, black really shouldn't allow this move. Because this is really the problem. White's this pawn chain g2 to d5 is very very pleasing to the eye. It's very stable, but it really a little bit clobbers up this kingside development.
Yeah.
So there's the famous saying that the Samish is a good opening, but ask the knight on G1 what he thinks about it.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that famous. You just made that up. Really?
No. This is a famous saying.
It's a famous saying in your chess club. No.
No. I cannot really put it to some famous player said that. I'm not quite sure. Maybe Najdorf or whatever. Some great player from the past. Who was a bit critical about the Samish variation. Okay, so knight e2, castles, and now knight e2 c3, and this is really a point where this somewhat original move order with f3 early, is maybe beneficial to white, as he easily can put this knight on a good square. And this b1 knight, of course, looks a bit redundant at the moment, but it can go to d2 later, or maybe a3 at some point. It could make sense.
Sort of a mirror image of a French Tarrasch, where the knights are dancing around on the king side.
It makes a lot of sense. The only issue here could be that white has got lots of pieces on the queen side, and he doesn't have much on the king. So, but this makes a lot of sense to make use of this. So, I'm a bit surprised that Gelfand also initiated the c5 setup also so early on move 3. He could have also played bishop g7, castles d6 before, and see if white would go the same way again, like in this game, and maybe then black has some other setup. I'm not sure.
In fact, I assume that e6, ed is a bit risky here, because if you give white c4, then knight a3 to c4 or knight d. This would be very useful, maybe, for this knight.
Yeah. Could be. Maybe e6. He didn't want to play because of this implication, but it's difficult to generate any play without e6.
Yeah.
If you just hang around with black, you're just in a bad Benoni. I mean, the Benoni per se, the structure is bad for black. You need to get some activity going, otherwise you're just worse.
I know, you usually beat me, you crush me in blitz usually with this structure. Sometimes taking on e5 it's horrible, yeah. so here actually black now plays knight h5, which looks as though it's got an aggressive intention of f5 at some point, but
I'm honest with you, I don't understand the move. I have no idea what it's doing.
Well, technically it does make way for the f pawn, doesn't it? Technically, yeah. F pawn, f5, it looks a bit thematic. If you get a good grip on the dark squares, that would be good, wouldn't it? If you can get a nice knight on e5 with a pawn on f4.
Yeah, maybe he wants to really play f5, and I'm not sure. Or he wants to maybe play, I'm not sure. F5 looks terribly committal. But okay, it's an idea maybe to open up the position while white has made lots of pawn moves and lots of knight moves. White is not very well developed. If you see that, basically almost all his pieces are still on the first rank. So maybe he tries to open up the position quickly. But well, white could have gone g4 here, for instance, and you just need to drop back then. But it would have been an idea. But it's of course also very committal from white's point of view, as you now need to go queenside with the king or leave it in the center for some way. It would have been playable, I guess.
Yeah.
But maybe not the kind of move that Anand was up to. I think his bishop g5 was fine as well.
Well, actually, when I'm playing white against Simon Shaw, I used to enjoy the white side. I like having a knight here. So when you play g5, this knight can't go there. So I guess g5 has less venom here, if maybe knight h5 is possible again.
Yeah, I think this kind of g4 here would be more to gain space than to really trying to attack the king.
Yeah.
It's very debatable if it's a good move. I was just mentioning it
Yeah.
because it was also mentioned in the press conference, but Anand didn't really answer the question if he seriously considered this move.
Yeah.
Somehow he danced around the answer and didn't say anything.
Okay.
So, but bishop g5 makes lots of sense, developing this piece, preventing e6.
Yeah.
And sort of asking this black, what are you doing next here in this position? And he came up with a really interesting move, bishop f6.
Yes. Usually, a King's Indian player doesn't want to give up their dark square bishop that easily, because you are weakening more your squares around the king.
Yeah. Just one thing which immediately popped into my head when I was watching the game. If you don't, it's useful to know that Gelfand, while he played in recent years, he played the Slav and other openings. He's originally a King's Indian and Benoni player in his youth. So it's not like he's never had this kind of positions before.
Yeah.
And also he's got his former trainer in his times when he was not living in Israel yet. His former trainer is Albert Karpengut, is the name. He's a famous expert on the Samish and also this Benoni kind of structures, and they even wrote a book together like 15 to 20 years ago about this kind of setup. So it's not like he plays this. He's playing this for the first time in his life or so.
Yeah.
So he should have some idea what he's doing in these positions.
Yeah.
But bishop f6 is really a surprising move. But I think it was interesting because White is inclined to take here.
Yeah.
I would have really...
I mean, it's weakening. The dark squares are being celebrated a bit more with the absence of this bishop.
Yeah, it gives you two f-pawns to break up the center.
Yeah.
What I was wondering, what's wrong with White just going to e3 here?
Just going back to e3.
Yeah, this would be the first move that would pop into my head. Maybe it's silly, but sort of asking Black, what are you doing with your knight on h5 and your bishop on f6? I'm just developing my pieces. What are you doing? I'm not sure. It's a very, very weird position.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what Black is doing, really. Not saying that it is bad necessarily. I'm just not understanding the kind of play Black is going for.
You're right. If there's no commitment for f5 here, without f5, I don't see... Say he goes back, he's just lost the tempo then, hasn't he? He's given White a free move now for queen d2, say. If he wants knight a3.
Queen d2 or knight d2 or whatever move.
It will just be a free move.
This cannot be the idea really to draw back. And I would have considered, but unfortunately no one asked them in the press conference about this move. Maybe on bishop e3, Black just goes e6 and continues. It's possible.
Right. Yeah.
And these pieces on f6 and h5 are somewhat weird, but it's not like you immediately have an idea how to use this.
Maybe a token check is not so bad to force g3, and then later f5 might have more impact. So force g... I don't know.
Maybe this is completely absurd, but maybe
G5?
Black could even... I think of it's White's move. But Black could maybe go e5 instead of e6. Just a completely different idea. With the idea of playing bishop g5, but then queen d2, right, would prevent this. If Black would get in bishop g5...
but now this is useful for knight g7. This is Czech Benoni territory, and then you can go like this. You can go...
You could try this, but I think White would be very, very comfortable with this position.
But at least it made a bit of logical sense to facilitate knight g7.
I'm trying to make a bit of sense to this.
Yeah.
But maybe you would have played e6, we never know.
Yeah.
But okay, Vishy took on f6, which makes sense as well, of course. It's not like it's totally surprising. And then queen d2, taking away this f4 square.
So he took the pawn, he gives him potential pressure and a hammering point on e4. Now if he takes for the knight, that just looks passive, right? Doesn't it? It looks...
This looks like White will have a lot of fun this afternoon.
Yeah. Okay, so
It's
at
just
least
it's just a one-way street position.
so it's dynamic compensation, which a lot of GMs, they routinely accept double pawns sometimes to get the dynamic compensation and pressure. So
Very often, this kind of structures where these double pawns, which are part of, let's say, I'm not quite sure how to phrase it, that are not isolated. Like if you have a double pawn, let's say on the C file, and you don't have a B pawn and you don't have a D pawn, they're completely isolated. These are almost always weak, but the double pawns being part of sort of a, let's say pawn clump here on the king side.
the pawn
This is no
islands.
weakness at all. Yeah, let's say a pawn island here.
Yeah.
This is no weakness at all, and usually, very often, it's even an advantage to have it because you have an half-open file.
Yes.
So it's there are even some players who claim that often double pawns are even a big advantage to have because you have open files. So Black immediately goes for the F5 counterplay.
Oh, I like to call it, I don't know if it was a silly term, but I did like to call them potentially losing trump cards, because here, okay, you've got this sort of trump card generated, but it's potentially losing because you've paid the price in terms of structure. So it's sort of give and take, isn't it? You're getting this, but you're taking away a bit from your pawn structure as Fetics. But if it's not significantly exploitable, then it's no big deal, the double pawns. But there's a big question now about White simply just taking here on F5, which he did. I don't know what other options though. What do you think about this? E takes F5 was played here.
Yeah, I think Black is maybe threatening F4, so maybe it was a given. I also think I would have taken that quickly.
Oh yeah,
Black might threaten F4 and then knight to E5.
Yeah. So E takes F5, and now walking into a token fork, he knows that he can take on B1. So this G4, okay, but first he can play a check anyway. So G4 is played, knowing that bishop takes B1.
Just a funny thing, I don't know if you saw the press conference after the game.
No.
They asked Vishy, when did you see the final position appearing in your head the first time that you see if you would play this way you would win the game? And he said when he played E takes F5, he did see the final position.
Blimey, when he played E takes F5.
Yeah, it's pretty much forced if you look at it in retrospect, but I know it's not forced because Black blundered on the way, but it's a plausible line to calculate.
Oh yeah.
So, okay, he went G4.
But hang on, that has huge implications. He's factoring in his own weaknesses of the last move with the F3 and how Black would take advantage of that later.
Yeah, sure.
So that's immense that he's actually seen, okay, what's coming. Okay, we won't spoil it for the... So there was a check thrown in, and now bishop takes B1 is virtually forced. There's no other way, otherwise the pieces are forked here.
Yeah. I think Black needs to take, right?
So rook takes b1, and now, okay, so there's the crossroads here. The knight could have gone here, or it could have gone there. So those are legal candidate moves. But what was chosen was queen f6. So should we see why... Should we just briefly mention why knight f6 wasn't... Engines like knight f6 or knight g7. Knight f6, I think, is the favourite.
Yeah, I think, okay, the engine wants to play this way because the other the line seen in the game just leads to big trouble for Black, and I think I think if this is the main move that Black must play, then this whole conception is just wrong, because while White is not directly winning or anything in this position, I think he's got a very, very nice stable advantage that he can try to press home. White has just got a nice space advantage with a pawn on d5 against d6 is typical Benoni advantage, and Black doesn't have a dark squared bishop, which can harass White on the dark squares, so the dark squares are no problem here. And one general issue here is that Black's knights won't get any good posts. This kind of f3 g4 setup limits the f6 knight. This piece doesn't do much. And what White tries to do in the long run is to play even g5 and f4 to really get a grip on the king side and completely limit the knights. He wants to do this in a position where black cannot go knight h5, of course.
Yeah.
So this is more of an endgame plan. Ideally, you would push all the kingside pawns, but White would try to exchange the heavy pieces here.
And this bishop is not so bad, you think? It can
Not
go
at
to
all.
d3 later and support maybe a kingside attack or something. It's stopping all the breaks, isn't it? Like b5 is going to be very hard.
This bishop often in the long run gets very nice place on h3.
h3.
Yeah. This is where White wants to go f4 and g5. And then put the bishop on g4 or h3 or something like this.
Yeah.
You would get this kind of position. You very often get in a line of the King's Indian, the Averbach line. I'm not sure how to pronounce it correctly in English. This kind of position you would often get there, but the only difference being that there are still the bishops on the board. White would have a bishop on f4 and black one on g7, and this is also quite nice for White. So it's not terrible, completely terrible for black, but it's sort of position where you don't have any counterplay and you will suffer for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's nothing he really would want to have on the board. So he really, I think he relied on Queen f6, and he also did when he played Queen f6, he did calculate some pretty interesting variations.
But in real life, playing a move like Queen f6, isn't that like going through a blind alleyway where you haven't got many options along that alleyway? You've just turned off the main street, and you know that you're not going to have options for quite a while, and you've got to precisely calculate that line, haven't you? Otherwise, it's really dangerous, isn't it, to go through a forcing sequence?
Yeah, okay. After this, there's nowhere back.
Yeah,
but I think he just didn't see this the final move coming, and was thinking that he had a good position really. And there are some lines which are very nice for black. Now White takes on h5, but let's quickly investigate an alternative, which is also interesting. Let's say White would play bishop e2. Yeah, and then knight f4 and knight e4. And this could be quite interesting for White. But yeah, it's not easy now. A move like Queen e5, White could think about various options. He could think about a move like g5 with the idea of knight f6. Whatever, there are some ideas. But what Gelfand wanted to do, and he stated in the press conference what he intended, he wanted to take on e4 here, and then knight d7 to e5.
Oh, very nice blockade on the dark squares.
Yeah, and maybe going g5 to anchor this knight, this kind of lines.
Beautiful positional sacrifice.
Yeah, it's very nice. So he had some good ideas, interesting ideas going.
Yeah.
But he simply miscalculated this kind of line. It just happens. What can you do?
So basically, it was just taken. Yes, just taken. So the alleyway continues going up this alleyway, whereas Queen is now ending up on h1. Okay. And here we assume he fought. You were saying earlier to me that Queen f4 was the assumption.
Yeah. In the press conference, both players said that they only thought about Queen f4, and then Anand said, okay, when he played e takes f5, he had this already in his mind, and then he saw already Queen f2. So when Gelfand played this Queen f6, I think he almost instantly could play the moves because he saw that he just wins here. And
sorry, Anand instantly playing moves.
Anand, yeah.
So,
but Gelfand also couldn't. There's no way back, as you already mentioned.
Yeah.
Once you're once you're there, you cannot go back.
It's like going a dark alleyway. So Queen f2. Now, why would they have initially thought? So Queen f2, and it seems the Queen well, the queen is kind of trapped, unfortunately, in a literal sort of analogous alleyway as well, not just from the forcing line perspective, but also the queen is
Yeah.
literally trapped down this alleyway.
Yeah, white will move bishop h3 or d3 or whatever and just win the queen. And it's a piece up then.
Okay, and he actually resigned here, but Engines find a resource which is very interesting. A resource, I think, which saved Spassky once in an otherwise completely hopeless position. I think Spassky, playing the King's Engine, once played this spectacular type of move when he was getting hacked on the King's side. I wonder if it's worth mentioning it. If YouTubers can guess it, if we give them 10 seconds, it's not. It doesn't really save Black, but it would maybe let Black play a few more moves. I wonder if you guys on YouTube can see it. 10 seconds. Okay. An engine move to knight c6. Knight c6.
It's really funny, yeah. I'm pretty sure that they both... I'm not sure. I cannot tell, but it's easily possible that that both players didn't really take this into account. It really, as you said, it doesn't really save the day here, but it saves the queen.
Yeah, because if bishop d3, there's check, and then there's another key check on f3, and then queen takes h2 is possible. So that's the ingeniousness of it. But of course, white is best to take that knight and let the queen escape at some cost. But here, white is better. But to Engines, it's about a pawn. But it is actually in practice, and white's got that d5 control. We saw a fascinating line where black sacrifices the exchange well to be a bishop down, but it's at that level, being a bishop down for 2 pawns, it's not very good.
Yeah, it also plays very nicely for white. You can do various things here. Knight d5 is a good idea, of course. You could also think about I'm just seeing this right now. Maybe it's also an idea. Play something like bishop g2 to d5 and knight on e4. Could also be a worthwhile construction.
Yeah.
So white will get a huge attack most likely on black's king, while being materially very fine. But it's possible that they really both didn't consider the move.
And apparently, I think Gelfand was annoyed with himself too much, so he just resigned here. Because he didn't see this move. He was annoyed, I think. Queen f2.
Yeah, certainly.
So what was this queen f4? Why would both have considered queen f4? Is it because it attacks d6 as well as maybe threatening to trap the queen? It still guards key squares, but it does mean here queen g1 is possible. Yeah,
maybe first. Okay, black needed to see this basically when he went for even before he went queen f6 really, because what he needed to maybe going back to f5 or something, because I think this knight f6 on move 14, which you looked at, which leads to this really prospectus position, is something black needs to avoid at all costs. So he pretty much was down the drain quite early.
But here queen g1, it's not so terrible for black, because imagine he's got queen d4s now. He escapes here with queen d4.
Yeah, this is fine.
Actually, or the check even. It's just escaping. Yeah. Okay, so basically, unfortunately, so queen f6, going through this alley and finding it's not very nice at the end of it. Unbelievable. It's quite a shocker. I heard about it by phone. I was a bit tied up earlier. I couldn't believe it after yesterday's game, and apparently it's a world record, almost a world record decisive game for a world championship match. This one, not many games are so few moves, are they?
No, I don't think so. There was a very quick loss pretty famous game also. But this wasn't a World Championship match. It was ineffective, the World Championship match. There was been a very quick loss by Karpov against Korchnoi in the 1974 match, which decided who would challenge Fischer. So in effect, it was the World Championship match, as Fischer didn't play. This in effect gave Karpov the title. But Karpov lost one game, also I think in 19 or 18 moves or something.
Oh, was that the knight takes H7 or something? Was
Yeah,
it the
right. Exactly this. Yeah.
Sorry, my memory's not so bad. Yeah, no, that was a classic. So I think I might have videoed that at some point. That was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. This was the candidates final at the time. So there have been quick losses, but yeah, this was really quick. But okay, it's not a matter of moves. It's just it got concrete to a concrete calculation heavy position really early, and they were, I think, very early on their own. I think on move 7 or 8, this is not home analysis anymore. They had to think on their own.
But you know,
and
isn't it hope for amateur players that they should compete against IMs and GMs with the idea that, you know, they're not playing against computers? One day, you know, one of these IMs or GMs, I know you're going to be an IM, but for someone like me who's not, you know, I'm just CM, but, you know, I've only beaten ever 2 IMs, but okay, you don't play them that much, but there is always the chance they will blunder, and this just demonstrates that they are just human. They're not anything like computers. Tactically, grandmasters are just people like us. You know, computers are much stronger tactically, aren't they? And they're just going to get stronger tactically as they see more moves ahead each year.
In positions that are sharp, interesting, and not one-sided in a way. If you got into a one-sided position against a stronger player, where you're just suffering with, I don't know, you don't have any space, you have a bad bishop, whatever, and you don't really have play on your own, then it's very likely that you will suffer against a better player and maybe lose. But if you play your own game and play active and aggressive moves, then they will make mistakes, of course. This is and okay, if you say you've beaten only in I'm not sure. It's
so many years, in FIDE time control, of course. In Blitz, you know, it's much easier.
Blitz,
it's every day.
It's something else, of course. but in FIDE it's also a matter how many did you play. If you would play like 5 FIDE tournaments a year with 9 games each, and you would play 20 IMs each year, I guarantee you that you will beat 3 or 4 of them. It will happen, and they're all human. If you check your games with computers, even better players or grandmasters, you will find lots of positions where you could have played better or more exact or whatever, which not means that the computer is, but it just shows you get chances. You get those chances all the time.
I must admit, in the recent 4NCL weekend, in one of the games I video annotated a loss, there was this line where I could have actually trapped my opponent's queen, and I even miscalculated that. But sometimes it's very, very important, this idea of queen trapping. If the opponent's queen is in your territory, to make sure you can trap it or not. I think that's a critical thing in analysis, because the queen's worth so much. It's worth making sure 100% if it's trapped or not. And I think this is an important theme for, you know, club games, that this queen's entering the position. So can it be trapped or not? They have to make 100% sure, because it's so valuable. So
for instance, in this position here, Queen F6, White needed to calculate, which for Anand is not difficult, but he needed to calculate this line up to Queen F2, see, okay, this queen is trapped, but you also need to do this. If you don't do it, Black would easily maybe have the better position. It's not like you I played some other move and it's still a game or whatever.
No.
If White doesn't go for this, he maybe is worse.
Well, he's the exchange down here, isn't he? Otherwise, it's 2 rooks, knight. He'll be the exchange down. Unless White has this idea of mating, but that's not too slow, isn't it?
Queen F2 wins, but it's the only move that doesn't make your position worth, I guess.
So Queen G1, let's assume White does try for that mate on G7.
You can just go Queen E3 here, and it's over.
Hang on, Queen F6. There's Queen E5, isn't there?
Yeah, or you can take on H6 maybe.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just take on H6.
But you need to be cautious. The D6 is also falling,
Yeah.
and this is an important pawn. But black is, of course, fine here. You can be sure that white would mate you
Yeah.
immediately, and you're in exchange and 2 pawns up. So
Yeah.
you need to be exact in your calculation if you take on H5, but you also need to do it because otherwise black would be very fine.
It's amazing. I thought yesterday's game was too simple, but this is even more simple. It seems something a lot of club players would have fallen victim to, getting their queen trapped. Especially me. I'm sometimes a bit adventurous in my queen. Oh dear.
Yeah, but it's not all the time that things need to be hyper complicated. I beat, if I look for instance at games where I beat stronger players, it's very often, it looks very one-sided. It's not like super complicated or anything. They got into some problematic setup and then 1 or 2 inexact moves and it's over. It's not like you need to produce a masterpiece to beat a strong player. It's it just happens sometimes that the other one is just assessing something wrong or miscalculating something, even on this level.
Yeah.
It's certainly a bit surprising after yesterday's game, where you could maybe think that Anand would be a little bit, I don't know, shaken up or irritated or whatever. But
yeah, I had actually visualised Gelfand choosing a very solid drawing strategy, just to draw his way to win the match, not take any risks, because he's got his money in the bank now to win the match. His points. He just needed to just draw his way to win the match without any risk.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was also thinking about before this game, what a kind of opening you would see. I was expecting D4, but I thought, oh, maybe he will now get his main weapons, let's say this usual openings out, like the Slav or Queen's Gambit to Klein to hunker down to get a draw.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very positive thing that he still played this rather dynamic opening. And you also need to see it the other way. If you now get into some fight, and he would, let's say it would be an open board fight, and he would win with black, then the match is simply over.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So it's just the same. If you look at football, one team has scored a goal.
I wasn't going to mention football to you. I'm not. I'm sorry about Chelsea. Yeah, I'm sure you're a better team.
It's no problem. But it's just the thing. It's just like in football. If you're 1 goal up and you've got some time to play, it's not like we're in the 85th minute or something. But you've got some time to play. Should you try to make the second goal to make it clear, or should you try to play defensively and not get a goal? Very often it's better to keep on playing your game and playing to your strength. And he seems to have decided before that with black he wanted to play dynamically.
I suppose the Rapids, if they had drawn all the games, the Rapids would be a bit like penalties in football. It would just be a lottery, wouldn't it? But Anand, with much greater track record behind him for rapid chess, or faster chess.
He's got a very, very nice, also very nice score against Gelfand in Rapids. But what you always need to take into account, that Gelfand really is, seems to be a player that really rises to the occasion. Yeah. If it counts, he gives his absolute best, and there have been so many opinions raised before the match that it would be very one-sided and he's not, I don't know, a worthy challenger or whatever. This is complete nonsense. You need to see that what did he do to get to this match? He needed to win the World Cup, which is 128 players, and basically everyone played there. He played Alekhine in the final. He played lots of 2,700 players on the way to this final, and he beat them all. And then he got to this candidates tournament, and he beat all those guys as well. Yeah. So what what more can you do? I think if in terms of what if you just look at what did had the player what did the player need to do to get a match, this is for years the most worthy challenger of all. Just compare this with the match 2 years ago. What did Topalov do to get this World Championship match against Anand? If you go all the way back from 2010 back, then he got this match because, okay, he beat Kamsky in this match to qualify for this, but this match with Kamsky only got because he lost to Kramnik in 2006, and in this 2006 match he only got because of St. Louis 2005. So you can construct it all the way back, this 2010 match, to won some tournament 5 years ago, and then he won one match against Kamsky, where Kamsky even was a better player and was just unlucky. So it's complete nonsense to tell that this would be somewhat, I don't know, an unworthy challenger or anything. Of course, we all, and I include myself, I would have loved to see Aronian winning the candidates and we see this match, yeah. But he gives his best, and of course, first six match games here were pretty dull. But okay, we had two exciting games, interesting games now, and now only 4 games to go. Maybe we can look forward to more decisive games, yeah. Would be very funny to start with 6 draws and then have 6 decisive games, yeah.
Maybe Gelfand has been practicing blitz on, and he knows it might end up in blitz. Maybe they both have. Sorry, rapid. It's going to be rapid 30-minute chess with increment or something.
But at the end, if they draw all this, it's an Armageddon blitz game at the end of all.
Oh right, yeah. So the faster time controls really are an important part of modern chess. To get that they are, aren't they? It's not just for fun anymore, blitz or rapid.
Yeah, sure. It's very, very important, and it's often for very, very high stakes, and practicing this and also have a good having good nerves is very important. I'm not sure. Did you yesterday? Did you see? This is completely off topic now, but did you see the playoff rapid match for the U.S. Women's title between Anna Zatonsky and Irina Krush?
No.
For instance? Yeah, this was very, very entertaining to watch, but I guess for the players it was terrible. Yeah, it was. Krush won the first game with black, and they had two games. Yeah, and she won the first game with black, and just needed to draw in the second game with white. And Zatonsky played very aggressive opening and had a completely winning position. Then Krush blundered the rook.
Oh no!
In really she just needed to give one intermediate check and take it, and it's the rook up. And Zatonsky stared for 3 minutes into this position and didn't take the rook. And Krush was like, oh, you could really see it on the webcam that she was completely, completely, yeah. And then it continued, and Zatonsky was winning anyway. She didn't take the rook, but she was winning anyway. And at the end, she was, I don't know, so hyped up on nerves that she blundered the rook herself.
Oh no!
So really, and it was for I'm not sure, but it was for thousands of dollars.
Oh dear!
It's really a huge prize fund in those U.S. championships. So rapid and having really the kind of nerves for this is very, very important nowadays. So
Irina Krush is the women's champion now, yeah.
She won this.
Well, it's a good name, Crush, isn't it? King's Crusher, Crush.
It's fun, right? All right. Yeah, we've gone very much up topic now.
Okay. I hope everyone on YouTube still awake, still interested, enjoyed this commentary. It was a brief game. Sorry about the detour. We'll try and do the previous game another time. Okay. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. See you in the next game.
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope we had better audio this time, but I'm pretty optimistic.
Yeah.
It worked out well, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers then.
Cheers.